Hi audience, this is your editor Kumar. Welcome to the next episode of Indian CEO. So today we are not in our studio, we are actually in Pegasystems office, their Hyderabad office. So here we are going to talk to Mr. Suman Reddy, the MD of Pega India. So Suman is an alumni of Kellogg Business School. He started Pega India in 2008 right here in Hyderabad. This is the head office. We're here. So we're going to call Suman, we're going to talk to him, and we want to know what Suman thinks about digital transformation and about Indian startups. Hi Suman, thank you so much for meeting us. Our audience is super excited to hear from you. My first question is digital transformation. It's actually a myth. There are multiple meanings of digital transformation. But what exactly is digital transformation and what is Pega doing in this industry?
Well, you like to call it a myth, but we think it's a reality. I think we work with the largest companies in the world. I think traditionally Pega has been working with the Fortune 500, and for the last 3 years we've expanded our customer base and now working with the largest and global companies. And in fact, you can read many of the analyst reports that tells you that if you do not understand the way your customer has changed in the last few years in how they like to interact with systems through different channels, which are all digitally enabled, whether it's their mobile device or their computers or their handhelds or whatever. I think they expect that kind of an interaction that they do with traditionally a tech giants like a Googles and the Apples and the Amazons enable. They expect that every aspect of their life, whether they're dealing with their banking services, whether they're dealing with their telecom provider or the healthcare provider or the insurance provider, or in every form of their life, they want technology and that digital enablement or digital engagement to happen. In fact, that's what Pega describes as the future of customer engagement. Okay. So in fact, the whole customer relationship management is evolving into what we call as a customer engagement, and these are all through digital channels. And majority of our customers today, their journey for the last few years has been to transform their organization to ensure they understand and deal with the new customer in the new forms. They have the baggage of coming up with these large legacy systems, which they have to sort of continue to support those while they have to make sure that they transform themselves to deal with this new generation of customer. So we believe it's a real problem out there, and companies who do not run fast enough to transform themselves will find a big challenge. In fact, we are seeing that many of the global 500 companies, Fortune 500 companies, will not remain Fortune 500 in the next decade if they don't transform. And we're also seeing that many of these large customers who are using our software to do that transformation are now the leading companies in the whole digital space.
Huge project, maybe a 4 to 5 year project. So is that how much time do you take to actually digitally transform an enterprise or a business?
No, absolutely not. It depends on how much you have to transform. But I think our typical implementation is just 90 days time frame. So when we take a company from where they are to at least getting something online so they can start digitally interacting with their customers, we promise a 90-day delivery time cycle. But again, I think if you have the entire transformation of your company, sure, it could take a bit more longer, but to get your return on investment, I think we promise a 90-day return on investment.
So the Western companies, now I'm referring to the UK, where digital transformation, they say it's a myth and it's not possible because the whole company gets transformed in 4 to 5 years. So what would you say to that?
Well, I think I'll give you a small example. Royal Bank of Scotland, I think, is one of our customers, and in fact, they have taken this whole concept called personology, right? I think the marketing for one. I don't know if you understand the concept that you in a marketing world, you typically do a segmentation. You basically say, I would like to sort of sell this market to this particular segment of people in a particular way, and so on and so forth. With the power of digital and the power of the intelligence that I've described about the whole artificial intelligence and data analytics and so on and so forth, they now have the ability to market to an individual, which is what they call as personology. In fact, they've taken it so seriously that they actually have people getting certified in their organization. So in the 1970s, when you walked into a bank, right, the bank manager would know your name, your wife's name, your family, how many kids in your family, your kids have gone to school, and he would greet you in a very personal way because there was a personal equation. In the today's banking world, you don't have that personal equation anymore. So with the power of this whole digital transformation and the ability to understand everything before somebody meets you, you can bring back that level of personology anymore.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a digital transformation is a myth. In fact, it's actually completely transforming the world. In fact, companies who don't participate in this transformation could become obsolete. As you know, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will not be Fortune 500 anymore in the next decade. And companies who don't innovate faster, they would get out of it.
So can startups look into this industry? Can they start their first business through this industry? I mean, what is the opportunity for them?
I mean, I think there are many startups already. I think going trying to sort of enter this market. I think there are two sides of it. Is the opportunity there? I think the opportunity is tremendous for any startups to go after some of these areas which can help organizations transform. On the con side, on the reverse side, I would probably caution some of these startups is because they tend to come up with very technology-oriented solution. They try to sort of look at everything around the whole mobile apps world, or trying to sort of Uberify a platform or things like that.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily what large businesses need. They are really sitting on legacy systems which are built over last 3 or 4 decades. They have hundreds of systems that they interact with. They have a huge integration platforms that are bringing all of this data together. And sometimes when you go in with a very simple application that has to be installed upfront and doesn't have to think about their past legacy, I think that would be very short-sightedness. I think in terms of innovation from a pure taking the technology, I think the opportunity is humongous.
Great. So as you know, nowadays most of these companies or clients, as I say, are looking to do business with startups because startups are lean, their costs are less. So in return, a client actually pays less. So when you see startup getting into digital transformation, you think Pega should be worried?
No, I think I don't. In fact, we are worried at all because if you look at our revenues, I think we are growing at a very faster pace. In fact, we are growing at a faster than what we were growing before. Primarily because I think, like I said, in fact, if you think about Salesforce, I think one of our competitors, Salesforce has come in with selling, SaaS applications online for a very low cost. So it became a very an easy thing for many companies to actually take up their services. In fact, they are now the largest company, but many of the companies who bought their application services or signed up with them and got their systems online are now suddenly facing the cost escalation, right? Because many SaaS applications want you to enter by giving you a low cost entry fee.
Yeah.
But once your data is there, once you're there for 2 years, you become sticky. You lose your flexibility to get up there because everything is out there in their cloud. And now they start charging you a lot more money, and that's going to start affecting your bottom line in the coming years. In fact, we are seeing many of our customers who are on Amazon Web Services along with Salesforce.com. They even though Amazon Web Services is reducing the prices because of the competition with Azure, the customers who are on Salesforce.com, their costs are going up by 2 times, 2 folds. So I think we've been in the industry for about 35 years, and we've been very careful about who we work with. I think we work with the Global 3000, and we ensure that we provide a long-term value to these customers.
Okay.
So sure. I mean, if can somebody come with some sort of an innovative application, provide it for very cheap, and attract customers to sign up, I think yes. I think we have seen many examples of that. But what we're also seeing is many of the examples are now failing. I think in fact many of the startups who raised angel rounds of fund are now not able to raise Series A.
True.
In fact, Series A is asking them to go back and start demonstrating profits. Yes. Nobody wants to put money before by just growth. Growth can be bought, but profit is the most important element. So to answer your question, I think yes, I think it's good that all the startup ecosystem is growing. There is a competition. There'll be innovation. Companies like us will be forced to continuously innovate and stay ahead of the curve. We welcome that challenge, but ultimately I think our industry experience of doing this for 30 years, doing it over 4 generations of our technology, rewrites of our technology, I think uniquely positions us to really grow even in an accelerated pace.
Great. So what if there is an innovative technology in your same domain by another startup? Would you look at that and come up with your own technology, or would you prefer acquiring them?
I think it's not a mutually exclusive thing. I think we could, in fact, we have made a few acquisitions in the last several years. For example, 5 years ago, we've acquired a company called Cordiant, which had a lot more advancements in the whole data sciences aspect of it in terms of decision analytics and adaptive analytics when nobody in the industry were looking at it. We were the first ones to get in there. We actually acquired that company because of their superior capabilities, and we did not just piecemeal it by integrating those two products together. In fact, we've spent a lot of time in terms of taking those learnings and rewriting that into our own core platform 5 years ago. So we've done where we've acquired a technology and we've sort of rewritten everything in there. For example, a few years ago, we bought a company called.
So you acquired them, but does that mean that did you shut down that part of the company, or is it still with you all?
No, absolutely. I mean, that company still exists, but in fact, our customers who used to use the Cordian software have been upgrading it to our new software now. Right? They are sort of migrating it from the older software to now our core software, which some of that elements got built in.
So you got your technology from there, but what about the human resources which are still over there working on that technology?
So there are a handful of people that are still continuing to support existing customers who are still on those technologies. So yes, I think the idea is that whenever you acquire, you really continue to support those customers who are on that technology and don't have any aptitude to upgrade. But I think the real value is when they want to advance their infrastructure. When in the last 5 years, you've seen the world change.
Yeah.
And many of those customers, I think, are getting tremendous value now because they now have the Pega capabilities with some of that strong decisioning built in. So that's one example. The other example I want to give you is where Mesh Labs is another company that we bought. They are specialized in the text analytics and the sentiment analytics space. When we acquired not because of their customer base, because they were a startup at that point. We've acquired them because they've spent good 6-8 months of doing some good R&D work where they've written code and sort of a software that they've developed, which we felt like we can easily integrate within our product. So in that case, it was a pure acquisition of technology as opposed to customers. Whereas the previous one, Cordian, we've acquired them for $160 million. We've inherited some of the largest customers in the world through that acquisition, and that was a different kind of acquisition. So to answer you, both of them work.
So in terms of human resources, Pega India has, I believe, more than 1,300 employees.
Correct. So
the success of Pega as an innovation center, do you think, or what's your take on these human resources? Do they the company's success is because of these 1,300 employees?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm a firm believer that I think in fact we look at the hiring practices at Pega. We have one of the I would say the most the highest level of in terms of intake program we have is the highest level of filtering system. We believe that bringing in the brightest people is the most important aspect of doing it.
Do you believe in hiring the best, or do you believe in hiring and then making them the best?
I think when we look at hiring people, we look at their aptitude. We don't really look at somebody who has already made ready-made skills, because sometimes we've also seen that people who come with sort of pre-experience of building things in certain way are very close-minded and they want to continue to do it that way, and sometimes they shut down some innovative aspect of it. So what we bring in is people who are free-spirited, have tremendous aptitude, tremendous ability to learn, but demonstrate the level of intelligence that we expect. That's the right sweet spot for us, because we want to have them come in, and you've seen the kind of environment we provide here. It's very open, very collaborative, and we want them to come and learn, and then allow them to innovate based on their learnings and their free-spirited nature. That's what works for us, and so we've been very, very clear about this from the very beginning that bringing in the right talent is important, and that sort of helps us build superior software.
Would you hire someone from a startup? Would you hire someone from a startup background, or would you hire a startup co-founder or founder? What would you prefer, or one or both?
Well, in general, my preference would be to not separate those two things. I think we hire good, smart people. I'd like to hire smart people who are willing to think freely and innovate and really contribute towards enhancing our software to and keeping it at the highest level that we are. We're known for the leaders in business process management, case management, CRM, and many other areas, and decisioning and analytics. And we look for bright people who can actually advance our technology and take this to the next step. In terms of our experience, I think we have made through acquisitions. So we've had founders who worked in our organization, but we've also experienced that some of these founders want to be a serial entrepreneurs, and therefore after a couple of years they've chosen another startup to start. And on the flip side, we have seen that people who came through these startup in the initial founding members, but not necessarily the founders, have continued to stay here, and they're continuing to innovate. In fact, providing and writing some great software. So the jury is not fully out, but based on our experience, the people who have worked in the startups have given us a long-term career here as opposed to the founders.
So what if your existing employee comes up to you and say, hey boss, you know what, I have this idea, will Pega help me invest, will Pega invest in this idea of mine, will it encourage this idea of mine, or if you don't want to invest, can I leave? What would you do in that case?
But see, we have a tremendous program, what we call as Pega Innovation, that we've been doing it for the last 5 years. In fact, every single year it's a marquee program that happens sometimes once or twice a year. In fact, the Pega CEO from the US comes to actually be in participation for that event, where we have a curation process of allowing all of our engineers to come and apply for that innovation thing, where we sort of allow for hundreds of ideas to come together, and we curate them and bring them down to about 20 or 30 really top ideas. And once these top ideas are shortlisted, we allow them to present in a broad set of mind, where we have a jury of people and sort of a Shark Tank kind of an environment, where the top ones make it actually into our technology, and the employees get a tremendous reward for actually thinking through that.
But what if that idea is not in the boundary of Pega? I mean, if it doesn't match with Pega's...
Today, as of today, we are not doing any kind of a fund that we manage to allow for any new startups to be born. That's not what we are doing at the moment. But we do, however, allow for people to innovate within our own organization and our technology, and we attach a lot of rewards and recognitions along with that.
Great. And finally, any kind of advice that you want to give to the budding startup entrepreneurs from your more than a decade experience with Pega?
In fact, it's not 11. In fact, I've been dealing with the whole startup world since the global, the Y2K, the whole the internet boom, back in the Silicon Valley when I was living in the US. I think I continue to see a similar cycle repeating here. Back then it was on the internet. Back then it was on the browser. Now it appears most people want to do startups based on their devices and the handhelds. And the whole Uberization model seems to have caught up in every aspect of the industry, where everybody thinks that they can create a platform and can sort of with sort of a low capital and can sort of succeed. My advice is to really think through more than the technology, the actual business you're trying to solve. I think maybe we sometimes forget in terms of trying to develop all these cool technologies. We believe we're not really thinking at the fundamental level. How can we make something easy for an end user as opposed to changing the end user's behavior? Do not try to create software that would force an end user to behave differently. Instead, think about creating a software or any innovation that would enhance our day-to-day things by making some things easier or quicker. Right? So understanding that business problem you're trying to solve or a consumer problem you're trying to solve should be the fundamental to any business plan thinking or any kind of a company thinking.
So does the technology play a very bright role in a startup idea?
I don't think so. In my opinion, I think it's the business idea that matters. Technology, I think today, is a commodity. Anybody can, build technology. I think, everything is available online. There's lots of open source tools available. So I think, any engineer from any college and any aspirant can create the technology that you want. Ultimately, it's the business idea and how you execute it that matters.
Great. Thank you so much, Suman, for this interaction.
Welcome.
I appreciate it. Our audience would love to, they would love this interview, and I hope that you could help more of these startups through these TIE and other initiatives you are doing.
Sure, I hope so too.
Thank you so much, guys, for your love and support. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful conversation I had with Suman, and I hope you learned lots and lots and lots from this conversation. Any doubts, any queries, just buzz me, and don't forget to subscribe to our future videos. Thank you, guys.